It's 12:01 Emma, January 1st, 2023, and you getting ready to ring in the new year with your friends and family when suddenly the television screen freezes. There is a moment of confused silence followed by nervous laughter until someone mentions that the internet is down. The TV is connected to the internet, so it's not working. And then you check your phone, but there's no signal. It turns out that the entire internet is down, and there is no telling when it will be fixed. Trading stocks would be impossible. Banks would be unable to process any transactions, and ATMs would run dry of cash very quickly. Without the internet, email, social media, and cloud storage would all be offline, which would prevent businesses from communicating with customers and employees. And since emergency services dispatchers would also be overwhelmed by the volume of calls coming in, first responders would likely be stretched incredibly thin throughout the day. Trains would need to slow down or stop altogether, since routes and schedules would be impossible to navigate without the internet. Without the internet, cable boxes would revert back to their previous state of being solely capable of broadcasting local channels. Textbooks would become irrelevant without the internet. Computers would become useless, and teachers would have no way of communicating with their students or parents. And as always, thank you for watching Life Noggin. Don't forget to keep on thinking. Online courses would shut down. Virtual schools would close their doors, and distance learning would become impossible. After-school programs and extracurricular activities would also be canceled. Sports games would be postponed, and music recitals would be canceled. Even libraries would be unable to assist students in their research, since online databases and research materials would be inaccessible. Fortunately, this unexpected day off would probably do wonders for students' mental health. So unless you subscribe to a cable package that includes a variety of channels, you'd be left with nothing to watch but reruns of Friends and Jeopardy. It would interrupt our daily routines and force us to interact with others in person, but it would also give us a rare opportunity to disconnect from the digital world. We would be forced to spend time with our families and friends, read a book, play a board game, or even go outside and enjoy nature. Maybe we would even look up at the stars and contemplate the vastness of the universe. An internet blackout could give us a much-needed perspective on the importance of human relationships and experiences. Game-kansuzus would become paperweights, video games would be unplayable, and the global esports industry would grind to a halt. Movie theaters would be forced to cancel all screenings. Amusement parks would close their gates. Zoos would turn away visitors, and all shows, concerts, and performances would be postponed indefinitely. It would almost feel like a holiday, except instead of one day of peace and quiet, we'd be experiencing it for a whole 24 hours. But some forms of entertainment would actually benefit from an internet outage. Bookstores would see a huge spike in customers as people search for new reading material. Board games and puzzles would fly off store shelves. Card games and outdoor activities would see an increase in popularity, and live entertainment like theater performances would be in high demand. And public transportation systems would grind to a halt without GPS. Traffic lights would malfunction, causing gridlock, and pedestrian crossings would be impossible to navigate. Commuters would need to walk, bike, or run to their destinations. With the roads being too chaotic to drive in, the only way to get around would be on foot. All this traffic congestion would cause massive delays in the distribution of goods and products. trucks would be unable to meet their deadlines, and consumers would be left waiting for packages that never arrived. This sudden stop in distribution could cripple supply chains, forcing suppliers to find alternate distribution methods or absorb their losses. Of course, there's no shortage of delivery services willing to step in and save the day, but they would be swamped with orders and likely unable to meet demand. On the bright side, the air quality would improve dramatically, and there would be fewer emissions and noise pollution from vehicles. We would definitely score some points for Mother Earth during this internet outage. Even minor accidents and injuries would require immediate attention. At hospitals, the absence of the internet could also lead to the misrouting of ambulances, and even the cancellation of life-saving surgeries that needed to be performed on patients that night. To make matters worse, mortuaries would be unable to notify next of kin about deceased loved ones. Funeral home staff would struggle to contact family members about arrangements, and coroners might be unable to determine the cause of death in cases where medical professionals were unable to run tests that required electronic data. In fact, many workplaces wouldn't be able to function at all, especially those whose workforces were used to collaborating through online platforms like Slack. Businesses would need to resort to old-fashioned methods of communication, like landline phones, faxes, and paper mail to try to stay afloat, although reaching the right person might be easier said than done. Paper mail has a slow delivery time, and faxes often get misdirected. But perhaps the most devastating effect of an internet outage would be the inability to communicate with loved ones. Although people would still be able to call and text, most people would probably prefer to use social media to update their friends and family on their status, or at least to know everyone else's status. But now they'd be left wondering if their friends and family were okay, leading to mass confusion and potentially unnecessary risk-taking behavior. Even if someone had the foresight to withdraw enough money to last them the day, it would be nearly impossible to purchase anything. Most retail stores rely on some form of online payment processing, and without power or internet, store card readers would be useless. Credit card companies Visa and MasterCard stopped processing transactions. Companies like Apple and Amazon would be unable to sell any products, and all online marketplaces like eBay and Etsy would close up shop for the day. The economy would essentially grind to a halt. As the hours pass, the mood goes from light-hearted fun to tense confusion. People begin to panic at the realization that they have no idea what is going on outside their own walls. Was this an accident? Was the internet hacked? Is the government involved? Did someone just make a really bad mistake? Since most major news outlets rely on the internet to broadcast their stories, there would be no way to get up-to-date information without actually venturing outside and talking to people, which might be difficult since global positioning systems like GPS would also go down, making navigation a challenge. Cell service would likely still be up and running, though it could be difficult to reach anyone due to the massive volume of calls trying to go through. How long can you survive without the internet? Can modern society function without it? Will people even remember how to talk to each other face to face? Welcome to Life Noggin. Today we are counting down the possible ways that the world would react if the internet disappeared for 24 hours. First up, global chaos. First things first, nobody would know what happened. Next up, economic crisis. With online banking and electronic fund transfers unavailable, the global financial markets would grind to a halt. On the brighter side, a global internet outage would probably lead to a record number of sales at brick-and-mortar businesses. Next up, communication breakdown. Speaking of which, next up, emergency services overload. For the reasons mentioned above, people would be much more likely to take unnecessary risks without the internet. Next up, transportation troubles. Airline pilots would be unable to access critical weather information, potentially leading to flight cancellations and dangerous takeoffs and landings. Next up, entertainment drought. The majority of streaming services would be unavailable during this time, leaving televisions dark across the globe. Next up, education shutdown. Schools and universities would be forced to shut down, sending students home for the day. And finally, a day of reflection. Of course, the internet being down for 24 hours would be incredibly inconvenient. So what do you think? Could you survive 24 hours without the internet? Let us know in the comments below.